stories this morning. What's going on, Adam?
Well, happy wildcard weekend, Sam. All 4 starting quarterbacks today will be making their playoff debuts. And who would have thought that Brock Purdy, the 49ers rookie quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant himself, would lead the 49ers on this journey where they've won all these games, and he's had 6 straight games with at least 2 touchdown passes. Purdy has put himself in position to be their starting quarterback moving forward, and it looks like right now it could be his job to lose. Of course, the postseason will have a big say about it, but this team loves Purdy. The players have great respect for him, and he's shown this organization an awful lot so far. Geno Smith has showed the Seattle Seahawks a lot, and he's got a lot riding on this postseason on top of the strong regular season that he had. He's set to be a free agent after this offseason on that expiring contract. And who would have thought that Geno Smith would lead the NFL in completion percentage this past season? But he did, and now he's set to cash in on it after the season, also making his playoff debut today. And how about the blow the Chargers suffered this past week? Mike Williams underwent a second MRI that revealed a fracture in his back that's expected to sideline him at least 2 to 3 weeks. It didn't show up in the initial MRI, but the Chargers doctors found it later, and now, barring a Super Bowl run for this team, Mike Williams is not expected to play today or next week if this team can find a way to get past Jacksonville, Sam.
Yeah, let's follow up on that, Adam. Let's bring in our Lindsay Theory, who is in Jacksonville with the very latest on this game. Lindsay, I know you spoke to Brandon Staley. What'd you hear from him?
Sam, there are a lot of questions about why Brandon Staley chose to play his starters in a regular season finale, despite moments before kickoff clinching the number 5 seed. Here's what Staley told me. They're trying to build a team, a culture, and a champion. He doesn't think they could do that by picking and choosing which players were more important than others. And perhaps most significant is that this Chargers team had not played that much football together this season because of injuries. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen only played 4 complete games together, 23% of the snaps because of earlier injuries they dealt with. And defensively, safety Derwin James had been sidelined 3 of the previous 4 games because of injuries, and Joey Bosa had played only 1 game since returning from a 12-week stay on injured reserve. So for the Chargers to sit key players and expect to go into the playoffs and play at a high level for Staley, that did not seem like the best option, but he did emphasize multiple times that none of these were easy decisions.
Yeah, they've dealt with a lot. Hold on, can we go back to Lindsay for a quick second? Because Lindsay, I'm a little confused. I want to talk about what these teams are dealing with today in terms of weather. You are in Jacksonville, correct? Because every time we see Jeff Darlington there, he's wearing a tank top or something. Is it cold in Jacksonville right now? What's going on?
I do not understand. Whenever you guys show me Jeff Darlington in Jacksonville, he is sweating, and I am telling you, my fingers are purple, but I refuse to be the girl who puts gloves on in Florida. I will not do it. It's not warm.
All right, that is why we love you. That's a tough woman right there. All right, let's get back to what she was talking about. It's really interesting to hear what Brandon Staley had to say to her. And Teddy, I think it's a compelling argument when he says, like, you don't want to say that more players are more important, or certain players are more important than others. But the truth is, in the NFL, some players are more important than others. And Mike Williams is one of those guys. Hindsight's 2020. But what's your reaction to this?
That it's not compelling at all, really. It was a mistake because it's all right. They didn't play together because they were hurt the entire time. So you got a team with players that have injury history going into the game. So you got to rest those guys. I put it this way.
Injury history this year.
This year rest. There's a reason why they haven't played together, and because they've been hurt. But the word I like to say is, all you coaches listen up, competitive confusion for players. Whenever that comes into account, that's when you don't play. All right, you heard me last week talking about how the Giants should be playing their guys against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, that was a clear-cut example of it. The Eagles wanted the number 1 seed. They were going to play, so that gives you an opportunity to be in a competitive situation. The Chargers have made the playoffs. They're playing against the Broncos. The Broncos, in between plays, those players are wishing them luck for the postseason. All right, they're asking each other, what are you guys doing in the offseason? So you don't know the tempo the tempo that they're going with or your motivation of your own players. From a head coach, I've never been a head coach, but from that perspective, that's what players are thinking. All right, I don't need to be playing in this. I should be resting for next week.
Yeah, like when I think of this coach, I'm sorry, I just think of like the saying that coaches have a high tolerance for players' pain. To me, it just takes me right back to week 3. Week 2, Justin Herbert, franchise quarterback, okay? Franchise quarterback, separates his ribs, has fractures, has all this stuff in his ribs. He should not play week 3. He says, Coach, I want to play. He's like, all right, I'm going to let you play. They lose that game 38-10. Who's finishing the game? Who's in the game in the fourth quarter? Your franchise quarterback. You know how many head coaches would love to have a franchise quarterback? Okay, why don't you treat this guy like the franchise quarterback? I think this is a huge fail. I think that this is youth showing up for this head coach, and I think somewhere in his career he'll look back and be like, man, 2022 I had a really good team, and I mismanaged that. I mismanaged their injuries. Mike Williams being out there is so important for this team. He even said it. He said, well, I really think it's important that they're out there together. Yeah, no kidding. You want them out there together week 18, or you want them out there for the next 3 weeks in the playoffs?
That's the chemistry.
You don't know if a guy's going to get hurt, but like Teddy, you're saying, like when you're banged up all year, when this is a hard year, you're dealing with something all the time. This was a fail. And last year there were fails. Like you count all these little fails. They could add up. If they don't win today, that's a problem for him and his job security.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those fails, the way they handled that Raider game last year where their team clearly should have been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Going for it in your own 18-yard line on fourth down. The list is long. And that's why I don't think the Chargers fan base trusts their coach. And here's the biggest fail, I think, on this football team. The biggest fail, Brew, is if you're a defensive guru, that's why you got the job, that you're fixing the defense.
Should be your identity.
You haven't fixed it. All right? And here's the thing.
They spent money.
Randy, they spent a ton of money, Matthew, for sure, bringing in Khalil Mack, all those free agent guys they brought in. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. All right? Your defense has been historically bad in run defense. They've given up. You got to go back 60 years to find a defense that gave up over 5.4 yards per rush. And here's the great thing. Today, if you're looking for something today,
give it to him, Rex.
Watch the ball on the perimeter today in the running game. Why? All the Chargers do is give up 9.3 yards per rush attempt on the perimeter outside the tackles. So today, fix that. Here, Staley, here's something. Fix that. Fix that, please.
When I'm looking at this, I'm going to have to go on a positive side of it, because we sit up here and talk about the chemistry. And when you look at the AFC, you got Buffalo, you got Kansas City. The only thing that I will say about him leaving Mike Williams in the game that late. But when you look at how Justin Herbert makes the magic work, you need the one of the best all-around backs in all of football in Eckler. But when you look at Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, those are two big targets out there. Right. So for Staley to be able to leave him in, they've been lacking. You're talking about only 4 games that they played together. So for him to his defense, I want to see what type of chemistry my guys have going into the playoffs. But to have him in the second half, I don't agree with that. But for them to be able to work on something, Sam, I will have to come to his defense for that.
Well, and people keep pointing to the last time these teams played, and it wasn't a great game for Mike, but the problem was their quarterback was hurt in that game, so it's hard to compare. Here's what we know for sure. They only average 20 points per game when Mike Williams is not in the game. Justin Herbert's numbers are better across the board with him. So we'll see.
And they're way better when they're healthy.
Well, yeah.
That's part of the job of the head coach is roster management, making sure your guys are healthy, feeling their best.
Get them to the starting line.
When it matters.
Here's some healthy guys, but there is some uncertainty about the quarterbacks we're going to see today because all 4 of them have never played in a playoff game. Kind of hard to predict how they'll handle the environment like this. Teddy, get to our opening kick.
All right, so let's start with Herbert, and let's get to the positive here, like Moss is trying to do here. Keenan Allen. Okay, since week 11, and he returned from the injury. He leads the league in receptions with 60. This is the guy, this is the connection that you'll have here. Also with Eckler, these linebackers like Alua Khan, you better be on your toes here because this guy on the checkdowns, the screens, the swing passes. The Chargers definitely still a high-powered offense without Williams.
Well, you talking about high-powered offense. Let's talk about Trevor Lawrence's weapons. We already know what ETN brings with 5.1 yards a carry, but man, let's talk about his pass catchers. I'm talking about Marvin Jones. I'm talking about Zay Jones. Being able to bring in tight end Evan Ingram. But ladies and gentlemen, you talking about the play action game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the man they paid all the money. Christian Kirk. Ladies and gentlemen, find him today, Trevor Lawrence. It's going to be a long day for the LA Chargers, but I like the weapons that you have.
All right, Randy, that's Florida. Let's go to California. They got some bad weather. They're talking about a cyclone. They're talking about 3 inches of rain this weekend. I'm talking about the Iowa State cyclone, Brock Purdy. Yes, Purdy! How can the Seahawks knock off this team? It's going to be all about the football. It's a core tenet of Pete Carroll. You got to get that football. Pocket, ball security will be so clutch for Brock Purdy and company today. You got to protect that football.
Matthew, you mean the Seattle Seahawks are in the playoffs? You got to be kidding me. Who saw this coming? How about nobody? Very few saw Geno Smith even as the starting quarterback. All Geno did, went out there, led his team to a